Good morning, folks. Phil Gallagher here of Thraben University for another sweet legacy stream. Today's donation deck list is brought to you by Reaplecheap, and we are going to be playing. Oh, hold on. We need to get these back in here. Yeah, that's much better. Let's get everything on screen, and then I'll do this. I need a little more room. Let's bring the sideboard down to 2 columns. There we go. So today we're going to be playing Green Sun Zenith Food Chain, which is very much an interesting approach to the deck. So let's start with what Food Chain normally looks like, and then we'll get into this. So in case you're not familiar with the combo, Food Chain lets you exile a creature to get 1 more than its converted mana cost in mana. And Misthallow Griffin and Eternal Scourge can be played from exile. So with a Food Chain and either Eternal Scourge or Misthallow Griffin, you can theoretically create infinite mana and then kill your opponent however you want. In this deck list, that often means a Walking Ballista as a giant laser to the face. More generally, though, the deck is a kind of an attrition value based deck. Morning, Zardian. And a lot of times you just cast a Manipulate Fate to send 3 Misthallow Griffins to exile, draw a card off of it, and then you just like cast a whole bunch of Griffins and beat your opponents to death with them. And that ends up being good enough. The Green Sun in this deck is kind of an interesting inclusion, and something I'm really curious about. Green Sun is essentially more copies of a cantripping creature, mana dorks, graveyard-based utility, Leovold for certain combo and blue matchups, and then it's more copies of Uro. Now, Uro is kind of one of those cards right now that I think is sort of coming forward in Legacy as something that's very clearly powerful and something that you probably should be doing if you are in blue and green decks. You kind of first saw people messing around with it in like Loam-like shells, and now you see it all over the place in like the Snoko decks, the Miracle decks. I've seen it, like someone throw it as a 1-of in their Delver decks even. It's just a very, very powerful card. In case you don't have your finger to the pulse of Legacy right now, when you actually cast Uro for 3 mana, you get to gain 3 life, draw a card, and you can put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. And then you can escape it for 4 mana and 5 cards from your graveyard, and it gets to come back and do it again. And this gives you a lot of utility versus pretty much everything. So like against the Delvery decks, if you gain 6 life with this sucker and then you have a 6/6 in play, that's really hard to kill. And every time it attacks, you get to do that same thing again. So it's just every turn, 6 damage, 3 life, draw a card, ramp. It's really, really powerful. Profit, Hydroid Crassus is an X cost spell, right? So that doesn't really play well with the Green Sun package that this deck is trying to do. I don't know whether or not the Green Sun package is something that's correct to play. The Green Sun package does not contribute to plan A of this deck, which is create infinite mana and kill your opponent. The Green Sun package contributes to early game consistency, card draw, and sort of utility. And the plan B of this deck is pretty darn good against a lot of the format, and that's what Green Sun is playing towards. Normally, Food Chain would have more creatures in this build, so you might see, another copy of Walking Ballista. You might see the, I believe it's Watcher of Tomorrow, the 3 mana blue creature that has Hideaway, so that you can like sacrifice the Hideaway card. Sorry, so you can sacrifice the creature to Food Chain and then get the Hideaway card with it. So this build is a very, very different direction than normal. What's the infinite mana used for, though? I just see one ballista. That is what the infinite mana is used for. You can also like use infinite mana to go and like do cute things with Uro, right? The limiting factor there is cards in your graveyard, but you can theoretically like cast Uro for 3 mana. Oh no, that it sends it to exile. I was thinking you could like Uro multiple times, and you can, but you have to be exiling other creatures for mana. So I guess once you have infinite mana, you could like cast Uro for 3 mana, cast Uro for 4 mana plus 5 cards from your graveyard, and maybe repeat that process a couple of times. So you can potentially draw maybe 3 or 4 cards with Uro if you have infinite mana. But it really depends on how many cards you put in your graveyard otherwise, and if you're sending a bunch of your cards to exile. I don't know about that. Yeah, I'll kind of see how that plays in the middle of the game. The other thing this version is doing is that it just has Oko jammed into it because, like, if you're a green-blue deck in Legacy right now, it's basically a mistake to not be playing Oko. Yeah, Trinket Mage finds Walking Ballista. But since there's only like one Pithing Needle in the sideboard, I wonder if this should just like be another copy of Walking Ballista. The upside of Trinket Mage is that like you can sack it to Food Chain for mana, and that it pitches to Force of Will. And I guess the force count is a little low in this deck because we only have one Ponder. Normally there's a few more Ponders and a few more like Watcher for Tomorrows, I believe. Let me say one thing about the sideboard before we get started. One of these Surgical Extractions and one Spell Pierce were supposed to be 2 Force of Negations, but this deck is like surprisingly expensive right now, and it ate up my entire loan account. The Force of Negations are something crazy like $60 each right now, so I needed to cut some corners somewhere to get this sucker on stream. So these should be 2 Force of Negation because they play very well with Miss Hologriffin. Otherwise, the sideboard is full of just very powerful good cards. Collector Oof, Veil of Summer, Plague Engineer. And then Carpet of Flowers is a great, great ramp spell. We're not going to be the fastest combo deck in the world. And maybe it's even correct to think of this as a mid-range deck first that happens to have a combo finish with this build, since like you only have 2 ways to truly go infinite. But we'll kind of see how things develop today. Alu Cartez, thank you very much for following. I hope you're going to enjoy today's content. Hope things are going well for all of you. I had a great stream last time around. We played some Jund and got absolutely bullied because our deck didn't have blue in it. But I did really well in the Legacy Preliminary. Super Preliminary, that was that day. Well, maybe not really well. I went 6-3, which is very good, but one more win would have led to substantially better prizes. Played Red Prison on Thursday, just because it's what I could justify with me actually having a work day that day. Justify spending 10 minutes every hour playing my Red Prison match, but couldn't justify like actually doing rounds with Loam or something like that. This is a weird one. So I'm a Manipulate Fate away from this hand being insane, but 5 lands is so much. Boofoo! Thank you very much for following as well. So this is kind of an 8-card hand because like I get card advantage out of this. But this Food Chain does nothing right now. I don't have enough reps in with this deck to know whether or not this is a keepable hand. But I'm going to lean towards that being a mulligan. This hand is much better. Much better. So I need all 3 of my lands to hit my 3 drops on curve. The most expendable thing here is my Eternal Scourge, because every Manipulate Fate just represents so many cards, and you kind of want your Eternal Scourge and Griffins to be in the deck for when you actually hit those. I don't really need to brainstorm yet. I like the cards that I have, not knowing the matchup. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and ponder here and look for something like a Manipulate Fate that's just going to be good value. Not knowing what else is going on, I'm going to just go ahead and take the Brainstorm, and then I'll leave the Ice Fang Coatl on top of my deck. If my opponent ends up being Delver or something like that, it's a good thing to have around. Otherwise, I'd probably fetch it away. It's also possible that I should just play Draw Go for another turn and not be the first one to make a move here, rather than just jamming Uro or Oko. We have just basically no indication of what deck my opponent is on yet. The fact that they're fetching a Volcanic Island makes me lean slightly towards something like a Delver deck, but like it's still very unclear. So I don't super want this Food Chain that's on top of my deck. I also kind of want to Brainstorm and then play Ice Fang Coatl rather than doing that in the other direction. There's Food Chain Miss Hologriffin, so I can theoretically go off next turn. I play Ice Fang Coatl now. I play... I don't really have anything to do if I go off. So one of these Food Chains goes back. Yeah, Sneak and Show is very much a possibility, but I feel like they would be sculpting their hand more. I don't know what second card is supposed to go back. I'm not super ready for Mist Hologriffin or Food Chain yet. Right, but Sneak and Show has like 12 plus cantrips, right? Are they packing Brainstorm, Ponder, and Preordain? So I feel like they'd be doing more with their mana than what they've been doing. I think I'm going to put back both Food Chains. We're going to fetch a Snow-Covered Island here. We want to be turning on the Ice Fang Coatl Death Touch, because theoretically we can Death Touch a Grizzlebrand, a Delver, whatever. Christopher, the deck list is on screen. If you click on the Cardboard Live extension, looks like a handful of cards. You can see everything that I'm playing. quite like that. I don't need green for anything in my deck except Uro. Should I play towards that? I already have blue. I already have black. I already have... Yeah, I guess I should. I think this probably gets countered, but it's super cool if it doesn't. So get Leovold, which is probably pretty good against what my opponent is doing. How did that resolve? Hydroid Crassus doesn't necessarily play well with the Green Sun Zenith package that's in this deck. So that's my answer to that. I don't know that this version has enough win conditions, like finishers. So, like, I've shuffled away 3 different food chains that I've had access to this game, just because I didn't have the possibility of actually comboing off. Yeah, so Trinket Mage still pitches to Force of Will, and it still is fodder for food chain. So, like, you can Trinket Mage for the Walking Ballista. Trinket Mage can start you off with 4 mana towards the Walking Ballista. So, like, that's not nothing. I'm a little confused about what my opponent is doing over there. Because they spent the first couple turns of the game doing nothing. It was turn 2, Brainstorm, turn 3, end step, Brainstorm, no main phase cantrips, no threat played out, no counterspell for Green Sun, Ice Fang Coatl, or 2 of my cantrips. And my opponent has disconnected. So that's cool. Just the thing for this. This is probably a good time to just, like, remind everyone that I do a podcast. I'm going to be on the Eternal Glory podcast as one of the primary hosts from here on out. So it's me, Bryant Cook, and Brian Koval. And we've got a pretty good set of chemistry, I think, and I've been really happy with how the first couple of episodes have gone. We'll be recording our next one on Tuesday, and it should be coming out on Friday. It's been so much fun doing the podcast. I absolutely love it. And I hope those of you who have had a chance to give it a listen have enjoyed it as well. Yeah, I don't really like Emrakul in Food Chain. Little known fact, I did actually own Food Chain on paper for a very long time. I owned a lot of the mid-rangey decks of that nature. Like, I owned Food Chain, I owned Alurin. And I always felt like Emrakul was just a really bad card and often win more. And I don't think I ever played Emrakul since Walking Ballista got printed. One of the things that I like about Uro is that it's a great way to fish cards out of your graveyard when things get stuck there. So, for example, if your Miss Hollow Griffins and Eternal Scourges get killed in combat or get countered, they go to the graveyard and you can't exile them. So historically, Food Chain has always played something to get cards back out of the graveyard. Scavenging Ooze, Gurmag Angler, main deck Nihil Spellbomb with Trinket Mage to go and find it. And Uro is just like an awesomely powerful magic card that also happens to do some of the utility that you want for the deck. Comboing with Uro and Alurin sounds sweet. Yeah. Alurin is one of those decks that I think has always been pretty close. Tyler Gardner. I forget what his handle is on Twitch. I think it's TJG for Tyler James Gardner. He put up a decent amount of Alurin results about 2 years ago and was grinding relatively hard with it. And I worked a tiny bit on Alurin with him, and the deck was good. But I've always felt like Alurin is really difficult to build correctly. Like, there's so many different ways to build the Alurin deck to play around different portions of the metagame and to play around like different like removal spells and pieces of interaction. And I've never felt super comfortable playing Alurin in a major event for that reason. I don't understand the deck well enough to know what build I should be playing on any given weekend. Yeah, and like it's fine if you always play the same version of Alurin, but theoretically, like from week to week as the metagame like waxes and wanes, there should be a build that's just better. And I don't think that's necessarily always going to be the recruiter-based version. Like some weeks Wasteland is going to be better, some days it's going to be worse, and that can impact like which flex creatures are better to play. Yeah, there's a reason why you hear all the people on like the various podcasts talking about Uro. Uro was something that was definitely repressed when Breach was in the format, and now that Breach is gone and things have slowed down a bit, Uro is an absolutely awesome thing to be doing. Yeah, so Cavern Harpy costs you 1 life to bounce, and Uro gains you 3 life on the way in. So you should be able to, like, draw your entire deck, gain not infinite, but a butt ton of life, and then kill your opponent with whatever. Traverse the Uvenwald is one of those cards that is probably, like, just a touch too difficult to enable for most decks, but it's pretty good. Man, I hate it when people do this. Like, if you're gonna lose a game or a match or whatever, just concede. Don't waste 5 minutes of your opponent's time. Like, my opponent has tilted off so hard to a Leopold that, like, they've just wasted 5 minutes of my time. Oh, I take it back. My opponent really did have a connection problem. Apologies to Mary Sue. It just took you a long time to reboot. Well, okay. So Food Chain hasn't lost a game today. That's where we're at right now. Alright, let's get into some actual rounds here. So for anyone who wasn't here for the deck tech at the very beginning, also just let me note again that the Spell Pierce and the third Surgical Extraction that are in the sideboard should actually be 2 Force of Negations, but this deck pushes lone accounts pretty hard, because like it has Oko, it has Uros, it has Force of Negations, all of which are relatively expensive, and many of the other cards like Veil of Summer and Carpet of Flowers aren't cheap either. Lock it in for the Super Q. I think I have to play like Combo or like Red Prison or Eldrazi or something like that for any Super Q that I play, because like the Super Qs are going to happen on work days for me, and my work days are much more flexible now than they used to be. So like I can work an extra hour or so each day and squeeze in a couple rounds of Legacy here and there, and it's not all that big of a deal. This is an interesting turn in that I can choose to like get a Dryad Arbor off this Green Sun, or I can choose to play Birds of Paradise. And I have to sort of evaluate what the role of this Green Sun is this game. I think one way or another the Green Sun ends up being a ramp spell for me one way or another with this hand. I'm trying to go turn 1 bird into turn 2 Oko this game and win via fair combat. The bird is going to give me blue mana this game. So on the off chance that like this Verdant Catacomb will get stifled or something and I get taken off of blue mana and I don't want to use the Force, it's probably better to play the bird here. Yeah, so I'm pretty far ahead as far as like recording my lessons and such goes. Oh, don't thought seize me. This is an interesting spot. So the Oko is basically the only card in my hand that matters right now. But if this is a combo deck, the Oko is only of medium power level, and this Force of Will is more important. If this is a fair-based deck, though, jamming Oko on turn 2 is pretty sweet. So if this is a combo deck, my Oko provides pressure, which I am otherwise severely lacking. If this is a mid-range deck, if I force this and my opponent doesn't have a counterspell back, the early Oko on the play is very strong. I think I'm going to go ahead and force this. It's a little weird to do so, and I'm going to get totally blown out by a Daze if my opponent is like a Death Shadow Delver deck or something like that. I think I'm going to start working towards basics for... Oh no, this doesn't get Island. Awkward. I'm not going to start working towards Ice Fang Coatl then. If my bird gets removed, I really don't want to be cut off of blue. Green Sun for X equals 2 isn't that good. I would really like to rip a land. So I can Green Sun for 3. We might be playing against, like, Ant here. Land. Land. Yes! I'm going to go ahead and do this all pre-combat. So I'm going to have my opponent dead in 2 more turns. Next turn, I'm probably turning my bird into an elk and attacking for 9. And then 1 more turn is lethal. Oh. Oh, opponent is not Ant. They're some sort of control deck. We'll use Leovold's ability. I already used this, I already used this. So we have a lot of pressure and a relatively annoying creature. So my opponent might be playing like actual factual 5-color control. Hold up. Is my opponent actually Ant? Just with main deck decay? Yes. Yes is the answer. Alright, am I deterministically dead? So 8 mana here, Storm is 5. Past in Flames, Cabalrit, Tutor. I'm at 18, so I think I am. Yeah, so they thought sees me build up the Storm count and then just Tutor for Tendrils. The Abrupt Decay in the main deck is sort of weird. Although I don't really know that my opponent actually needed it. I would have gotten to draw a bunch of cards off Leovold triggers, but I don't know that I needed it. Alright, Veil of Summer is great. Unmoored Ego is probably pretty good. Collector Oof is great. Carpet of Flowers is fine. Surgicals are good. Pierce is fine. Back to Basics and Plague Engineer fall into the category of things that I can consider but don't necessarily need. So I need to like sculpt what am I doing? How am I winning this game? And what cards don't contribute to that plan? So the Green Suns are going to find Oof and Leovold, so they're really good. I don't really see myself actually being able to set up going infinite with this deck. So I think probably the easiest cuts are my food chains. So I think I cut my food chains, my walking ballista, my trinket mage as a starting point. And then I still have other cards that I can cut, like Eternal Scourge is pretty bad when you don't have food chain and when you don't really care about opposing removal. My Abrupt Decays aren't particularly good. They can snag artifact mana, but if my opponent plays with proper sequencing, it's not going to do much most of the time. Ice Fang is still a blue card for Force of Will, and it's something that I can play while also holding up mana for my opponent's turn. So I think Ice Fang is probably a little bit better than you're giving it credit for. I have mixed feelings on Uro. Because if I play it and I can ramp, or if I play it off of like Carpet of Flowers mana, it's actually pretty good. Manipulate Fate draws 4 cards for 2 mana. It's pretty strong. Yeah, I'm not sure if my opponent goes the Goblin's Plan versus me. Let's do that. Let's do this. Let's trim one of these and one of these. If I get to cast Unmoored Ego, I can figure out whether or not my opponent is playing goblins. Would like to play first. I will keep this. I'm going to go ahead and cast the Once Upon a Time on turn 1, because if I hit Birds of Paradise, it's very strong for me. It's awkward now. This Collector Goof is going to be exposed to a counterspell. Or, sorry, a piece of discard. So now I have to Spell Pierce a piece of discard that comes my way. Nine of spades. Remember that we don't necessarily have to do anything all that impressive to kill Ant. Like, if we attack them with 2/2s and 3/3s for a bunch of turns, but we prevent ourselves from dying, like, we still win. We still get the W. So you don't always have to be doing the craziest thing in the world. Hello and welcome. I wonder how many pieces of, like, battlefield-based interaction my opponent is going to have. No, not Manipulate Fate. Like, I don't know how heavily my opponent has diluted their deck. While Collector Oof is like a pretty hard lights out versus TES, Ant can still definitely win through it via Cabal Ritual. Opponent has taken the Plague Engineer, indicating to me that goblins are probably one of their primary outs. And now the question here is, do I just slam the Oko for pressure, or do I cast the Manipulate Fate while holding up Spell Pierce? I think I need more pressure than what I have. And I'm going to try and lean on the strength of the Collector Oof here. And hope that it has bought me at least one turn. I'm being a little lazy here in terms of sequencing. Technically, I should have attacked with the Collector Oof first because it plays around Chain of Vapor better. Cresswell, thank you very much for following. Hope you're enjoying the food chain action. Although with the way the matchups have played out today, we haven't been a very good food chain deck. We've just been like a bug mid-range deck in most of our games. No shuffle off the ponder. We're going to shut off ad nauseum based lines very quickly. Need to hit for 5 this turn. We're going to be playing Manipulate Fate over Icefang Coatl this turn because of mana. Like, I would have to have both of these and shut down my blue if I wanted to play Icefang Coatl. So in case you're not familiar with Legacy All-Star Manipulate Fate, I get to search my library for 3 cards and exile them, and then draw a card. So I get to go and exile 3 copies of Mist Hologriffin, and them being in exile is just as good as them being in my hand. And in fact, it's frequently better. We have our opponent on a 2-turn clock with Light Disruption. This is maybe or maybe not good enough. Opponent was thinking about casting something in response to my Manipulate Fate. So they could have Chain of Vapor here. No, they have a Brainstorm, and that's fine. Brainstorm's obviously quite good, but I think I need to be representing Veil, and I do have Spell Pierce, which they know about. No, I'd definitely say that my opponent is like favored on current board. Yeah, Manipulate Fate is one of those cards that is an incredibly high power level card, but only in very narrow circumstances. All right, opponent, why did you play out this LED? Fine and Andy, thank you for your support. You are the first sub of the day. We're working towards a stream with Rich Callie next weekend, who is an absolute Delver master. He just won the... Well, that sucks for me. He just won the Super IQ, or not Super IQ, Super Preliminary. So if I counter this, I just go down a card, and my opponent just, like, lets it resolve and then goes off from there. So I think I have to play as if this is a bait. Because if I counter it, my opponent's just going to, like, go off anyway. They basically have to because they're being pressured so hard. Alright. Do your thing. No, if I pierce, they just don't pay. And then they combo off anyway. So, like, piercing does nothing. Piercing bluffs that I have another piece of counter magic, but I believe my opponent knows 2 of the cards in my hand. I know they know the Manipulate Fate and Spell Pierce for sure. I don't remember if they know the Ice Fang or not. But I'd be saying I have drawn Force of Will in my either last card or last 2 cards. And I think they call that 100% of the time at 10 life. I also get absolutely savaged by another Veil if I counter it. Okay, my opponent is just getting to make goblins here. It's a good amount of goblins. Oh god, that's awkward. So assuming that I have 2 bodies, I'm taking 10 on this next attack and going to 8. My opponent will have 10 goblins left. I can produce another body the following turn, but it's that 3rd turn that gets scary. I believe my Uro is in the sideboard. That's my life gain. I have 1 Plague Engineer to hit. Many of my highest upside plays are going to involve brainstorming into a land or brainstorming and finding Plague Engineer. I can Ice Fang and food this turn. And I can Ice Fang and Elk next turn. Yeah, I think this is a brainstorm time. Alright. I don't want Manipulate Fate. I don't want Spell Pierce. That part is easy. Those are getting shuffled away. Ice Fang's Death Touch doesn't matter as much as extra colored mana will matter. This could become a Dryad Arbor as well. So the other thing I can do, actually, is just try to aggro my opponent out if they go all in trying to kill me. Fuck, that was the line. What did I fetch? I just fetched Underground Sea? So the line was turn Icefang Coatl into a 3/3, fetch Dryad Arbor end of turn, Dryad Arbor into Dryadar return into an elk, swing for 9 next turn. Fuck. Fuck, I messed that up. I was so busy thinking about how I was surviving that I wasn't thinking about how I was killing. Alright, so what if I elk the Ice Fang Coatl this turn? Yeah, but would they have seen that line? I think end of turn fetch Dryadar would have gotten me. Not pleased with myself. I think I should have played towards that offensive line. Oh, shoot, no, you're right. Sorry, I tapped this for Ponder. I didn't have this available. It's very likely that my next turn is Ponder looking for Plague Engineer into Ice Fang Coatl and Oko make food. I haven't done the math for whether or not I'm going to be able to fetch with this Misty Rainforest yet. I take the goblins out on the end. Reduce their flanks to nothing. Oh no, the flanks came back. Oh god, what are they Infernal Tutor for? Abrupt Decay for my Oko? Alright. I'm gonna Ponder first, looking for Plague Engineer. Scavenging Ooze? There are 2 creatures in the graveyard? Alright. Math. Yeah, I know. My opponent is attacking me for 8. I'll block 3 with this line and take 7 damage. I gain 1 life. So it puts me to 1. I kill 3 goblins. The next turn I can eat 1 and play Ice Fang and Leovold? Okay, does that work? So my opponent has 7 goblins left. I invalidate 4 with blockers. I gain 1 life. Ugh. I can play Ice and Scooze now. Oh, okay. Yeah, so instead of eating, I can just play the Ice Fang Coatl. I see. And then I can have the Ice Fang Coatl die and use it to gain life. think that works because I ended up being like 1 life off before. Alright. So block 4 this turn, my opponent goes down to 6 goblins. I take 6 damage, I go to 1. Okay, yeah. Alright, so Leovold goes on bottom, then Forest, then Ooze, Shuffle Library. No. Play this. Play Ooze. Play Ice Fang. Pass turn. Don't decay me, bro. So I can gain 3 life next turn while still having 3 blockers around. So I think I'm good. Or 4 blockers because I'm going to play the Leovold. It's a top card in my library. Although if I play Leovold, I gain 1 less life, but that's fine. It's a huge win for me if my opponent doesn't attack. They have made their choice. Oh. So my opponent attacks with these. I could even consider not blocking with Ice Fang Coatl. I don't have lethal with 2 bodies next turn. This is a tough spot. What the fuck is Detection Tower? Until end of turn, your opponents and creatures your opponents control with hexproof can be the target of spells and abilities you control as if they didn't have hexproof. So is that like anti-Veil of Summer tech? Okay. So I get to block 4 of the 6 goblins. I can just kill them, right? Like, their last card has to be Abrupt Decay, and it's just, like, so much better for me to actually go for it here. Right? Like, I'm not missing anything, right? Their last card has to be Abrupt Decay, Chain of Vapor, Echoing Truth, or they die. And if they had Abrupt Decay or Echoing Truth or any of those things, they just bounce, like, my food token, and they kill me. So they have nothing, and they're just dead. Yeah. Yep, okay. Unfortunately, we have to do that again now while we're on the draw. So, what's my blue count like? So assuming these stay in the deck, and these stay in the deck. I have nine. I guess my blue count is fine. I'm thinking about trimming some of the Manipulate Fates for other cards. Because I'm not sure that I'm supposed to be tapping out for Manipulate Fate, despite the fact that like it cycles into the Mist Hologriffins. So I think I want to replace these with other blue cards if I can. So like, this could become an Uro for the Goblin base plan. This can just be something that I can play end of turn while representing having mana up. And honestly, with my opponent's mana base the way it is, and them also playing some funky things like that, was it Detection Tower? Maybe I can back to basics. I can also put the Once Upon a Time back in. The Once Upon a Time seems pretty good, actually. This leaves me at 22 blue cards. Yeah, that's fine. I think I like this. The back to basics could mise a game win on its own, but I don't know that that's really correct to try and do on the draw. I'm in. Wait, hold on, I have one land. Awkward. One land, no cantrip. Triple Force of Will. There's so many games where I just don't play Magic and my opponent like fails and I die. Fuck, again? I'll keep this one on 6. As a very, very strong card in Collector Oof. But this is going to be an end of turn brainstorm hand and hope to hit a second land. Yeah, Once Upon a Time is a sweet draw. Or we can just find the second land. That's even better. Is this finding a blue source 100% of the time? I think it is. But there's very little cost to playing this one instead. I'm still probably casting an end of turn suboptimal brainstorm to try and sculpt it so that I can find my third land. I see myself tapping out a lot this game. I'm also brainstorming in response to a discard spell and hiding the oof. So I could get Underground Sea with this, and then get Forest off of Prismatic Vista and have access to all of my colors. Seems fine. Oh man, what a set of cards. Of this stuff right now, I probably want the Ice Fang Coatl the least. So I'm going to tap out for Oof, and then I'm going to tap out for Oko. So we have Force of Will backup, which is great. We can still get bit in the butt by Veil of Summer, though. My Force of Will isn't going to stop an Abrupt Decay on Oof. But I can stop a lot of other stuff. In Noof, yeah, not bad. Not bad. Dryad Arbor. Didn't want to draw you. Never want to draw you. Dryad Arbor must be a very lonely Magic card. Everyone just yells at him. Don't decay my Oof. He has so much to live for. Oh. Oh. Well, that's fine. Now I have this sweet food that I can use to gain... Oh. Yeah. Yeah. So, this is either indicative of my opponent having another removal spell for later, or the fact that they just have a Cabal Ritual-based hand, and they don't need the Oof removed from play to win. That feels like a good time to bite, to me. Fuck, still? Alright. I just don't really know that the combo is good. Like, it's a lot of moving parts to try to make happen. I was trying to play that match like I was a, like, bug hate bears deck. Yeah, this is fine. And I think the Ooze goes back blind here. This Ponder is going to be looking for my land for Oko. We have Miss Hollow Griffin to pitch to Force for value. So I'll force somewhat aggressively this game. Not that aggressively. I'm gonna get a fistful of basics this game and not expose myself to wasteland. Oh my god, those are cards. How do I stack this? So I have a Thought-Knots here covered, so I don't super need to worry about what's in my hand. It'd have to be like Cavern Souls plus Spirit Guide to get through my Force of Will. I think I want all of these, so I think I go Ice Fang, Manipulate, Fate. Or no, I'm only going to get 2 of the 3, because I'm going to fetch. Manipulate Fate is the slowest thing here. But it's really good. Death Touchers plus Oko should be good enough, though. So I think I'm going to go Manipulate Fate on bottom and then 2 Ice Fangs. This is also a game where I don't think I would counter a Chalice of the Void. Opponent maybe getting a pizza out of the oven or something like that. Oh, they're back? Well, they're not back. We got savaged by the natural tendrils. I think I was correct to not counter the first Infernal Tutor. I think the second one, after they've, like, invested some extra resources into it, is okay. Like, maybe there's a weird world where if I let that Infernal Tutor resolve, I get to choke them off of 4 mana. But I don't know that that's actually the case. And if I let that next one resolve and they have a second Tendrils, they can also just, like, get second Tendrils, cast tiny Tendrils, and then if I have Force of Will, it doesn't matter, and they just wait another turn or 2 and then baby Tendrils me again. My opponent's not on a stock list since they're playing that Tower Land, whatever it was called. So I don't know whether or not they have the second Tendrils. Yeah, something to think about. I might go back later and rewatch that replay and try to parse that spot. Oh man, opponent, please. Like, do something. It's Eldrazi. There's a flowchart. Can you cast Thought-Knots here? If yes, do it. Can you cast Reality Smasher? If yes, do it. Can you not cast Thought-Knot Seer or Reality Smasher? Play the creature that has the highest damage potential over the next 3 turns. That's not true. They have about 3 minutes and 30 seconds to cast the Thought-Knot Seer. You time out after 5 minutes of inactivity. That's how we won round 1. Yeah, so as far as 1-drops go, we actually have 7 true 1-drops, and Green Sun Zenith is kind of like an honorary 1-drop. So far the Green Suns have been good, but not as part of the food chain shell. Like, in these post-sideboard games where I'm just trying to play Hate Bear's deck with, like, Leovold and Collector Oof, the Green Suns have been good. but they haven't like necessarily meshed well with the food chain side of the deck. So I don't know how I feel about the Green Suns overall. Like, the card is unquestionably good in this shell, in that, like, it is getting us our bullet cards for matchups, but is access to those bullets via Green Sun significantly better than access to them via Watcher for Tomorrow and more Ponders? I don't know. I have a family. They want me to be done playing Magic. Fuck! Alright, so we're gonna win 2 rounds today via disconnect. That's cool. Because my opponent here was like disconnected was like not taking actions for like 2 minutes, and then they disconnected. So probably by the time they get back up, they're going to timeout. Win percentage is skyrocketing. Yeah, it's a shame we're not going to get the 5-0 off of like mono disconnects. I think a lot of people have had trouble with Magic Online since the most recent update. They implemented a whole bunch of new features, and by new features I mean fancy new sounds, and it seems like the new updates in one way or another have caused a lot of lag for some people. So like I had to restart Magic Online, I think Thursday on stream, because I had just like I would scroll over a card and the card image would just get stuck. So like I've definitely been there. All right, folks, got any questions for me? Let's talk Legacy for a few minutes. To be fair, new sounds were the main thing holding the software back. Yeah, that's what I've heard, actually. Everyone who plays Magic Arena is like, yeah, and every time you cast Uro, it makes some sort of like noise, and it like goes over your entire screen. And like, we definitely don't have that on Magic Online yet, so maybe that's what they're working towards. What are your thoughts on D&T's position in the current meta? Very clearly a tier 2 deck. Not even close to one of the best things you can be doing in the format. Unfortunately, like, D&T got better with Breach being gone, but most of the other cards running around the format are still so good towards... Sorry, are so good against D&T. Like, Dreadhorde Arcanist is rough. Plague Engineer is rough. Oko is rough. Uro is good against us in that, like, it helps to get around, like, the waist and port side of thing, and the body's big, but we do have Caracas to kind of cover it. Thoughts on D&T splashing Oko? I mean, it does turn your vials into creatures late game when your vials aren't good anymore. Can't be worse than some of the things I've tried recently. So, starting Monday, the week of daily D&T is going to feature a black-white build that someone sent me that has Bile Blights in it, and it's a rough week of videos. Let me tell you. So I think D&T splashing Oko would be better than the build that I played for this coming week. Yeah, I accidentally posted one of those. I unposted it, and they should be going live starting Monday. Let me just confirm that. So a lot of times I'm recording videos a couple weeks in advance, just so like I have a queue of them going. Yeah, so the quote-unquote Dead Girl Ale lists start going live on Monday. Or the Dead Girl Ale videos. It's an interesting idea, but it did not always work. The mana base was very bad. Man, I was hoping to get some like great games today. I was hoping I'd get to like record a great video, post this one to Reddit. I don't think this one's going to Reddit at this rate. Just like mono disconnect control over here. And just like that, we're 2-1 with Food Chain. Deck has some legs or wings, beaks, whatever. What else do we have coming up in the queue? I think Eldrazi's next. Yeah, so Monday's league is going to be White Eldrazi, which I enjoy a lot. So next 3 streams are White Eldrazi, 5-color Loam, and then assuming I get another sub, so White Eldrazi will be Monday, 5-color Loam will be Thursday, and then Saturday will be Delver with Rich. Let me update that. One more sub today. Done. There, sub goal updated. I love Food Chain too, but we haven't like seen Food Chain do its thing yet. No, I don't like to spam Reddit with my videos. I like to just post the ones that I really like to Reddit. Like, I don't want to be making... Like, if I'm making 8 videos a week, like 5 daily D&Ts and then 3 streams, I don't want to flood Reddit with that degree of posts. Nah. That's getting countered. I think I'm going to high roll, though, and try to find a Miss Hologriffin. Well, I found a Miss Hologriffin, but not the way that I wanted to. I think I'm pitching the Trinket Mage here. I can put something 2 down that I want to shuffle away, and that's probably this basic swamp. So we are most likely playing against lands, although there is some possibility that we are playing against Enchantress, or that we are playing against a mono-green Titan deck. Alright, so we're going to get 1 Scourge and 2 Mist Hologriffins. We got a Green Sun. Which can get a Scavenging Ooze in this matchup, so that's definitely worth something. Let's pop this out. Some weird sequencing from my opponent. I guess playing the port first plays around Daze, but that's not really played in this deck. You didn't port me? What the fuck? Why? Crop rotation? How aggro are you going this game? Fine and Andy, I'm firing you again. Well done. Awkwardly, Uro puts me to 20 life, not 21 life. And I don't have my next land. I'm pretty likely to get ported down. Actually, I'm thinking Green Sun for Ooze. Because Life from Loam is the thing that gets this game out of control. And if I can preemptively stop that, that's probably pretty good. My opponent is probably not the Punishing Fire version, they're probably the Oko version. And I have an answer to Oko, but not the ability to cast it. So that would be an argument towards getting the bird. This turn's super awkward. So how do I win if they just go like crop rotation into produce Maritage? What's my line to beat that? My line to beat that involves chump blocking with bird for a turn. All right, I've changed my mind. I'm gonna brainstorm since I can buy time and try to like find an Oko or something. If my opponent just goes for a Maritage based kill. I'm putting back one of these green suns, and I think all my lands are good. The green suns are potentially pretty bad if I just start getting ported off my green. So I'm going to shuffle back two of those, despite the fact that they're okay. If I can get my Uro into the graveyard. No, I think Uro's worse than Green Sun. Like, Uro is going to require two separate colors in my main phase. So Bird plays better towards lines that allow me to just chump block for multiple turns via Mist Hologriffins as well. Yeah, I'm in. I'm so in for that. Where's your wasteland now? Yeah, there it is. Well, I'm no math wizard, but this seems good. It's a great, great top deck. Four basic lands. Pretty sweet here. Am I done with Bird? What's my green sun getting? My green sun is probably getting a Scavenge Muse. Getting rid of the bird means I can get ported off of green, though, which is awkward. So I'm going to go ahead and make a food. If my opponent doesn't port me off green, this also gives me the line of green sun and eat their Tireless Tracker immediately. Okay, cool. We get to eat that life from Loam immediately. It's very good for me. Don't take me off green. Don't take me off green. Don't take me off green. Fuck. Draw green. God, I am so good at Magic. So good at Magic. We have a very fast clock now, just by the way. I can have my opponent dead in 2 turns. Alright. That decay was pretty good. Why aren't you porting me? Why aren't you porting me? It's going to be so relevant. If I end up holding up this Force of Will. Which, if my opponent, like, does things properly, I shouldn't get to hold up this Force of Will. And I'm going to act as if they're going to port me end of turn. Not porting because they want to start sideboarding. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I may have overestimated my opponent a little bit earlier in the game. Let's see if they have something like Glacial Chasm to get themselves out of this. Tabernacle's not good enough. Yeah, that's not going to accomplish what you want it to accomplish. Like, yeah, it ties up my mana, but... So just little thing here, you tap your lands so that they can't be ported down, and then I have the option to cantrip in my main phase if I need to. We'll whack my opponent down to 2 and hold up Force of Will for who knows what. Yeah, fair. I definitely have some clips of me from the stream where I'm like thinking about what my opponent is thinking, and then I just like totally next level myself because like they're just missing all sorts of things instead of like playing into these weird circumstances that I'm thinking of. All right, extraction seems great. Back to basics seems great. Unmoored Ego is probably good enough, right? I can search for a land with this. So I can stop Field of the Dead with this, or stop Life from the Loam with it. Needle seems good. My opponent didn't show me blue, right? They showed me like Bayou-based stuff, but they probably haven't. I think I probably play this. Like my opponent could be playing like Chokes or Spheres or something on the sideboard that I want to hit, and it hitting Exploration is already good. Oh, they should Jund. Thank you. Uro is very cuttable. Is it, though? Like, it's a huge body. It ramps me. It gains me life, and going to 21 is super relevant. Oh, they have Crop Rot Bog. Sure, okay. That's a fair point. I don't think I'm comboing off. I think I'm using Food Chain in a very fair way. Maybe I will cut that. This is still 62. Ice Fangs are medium. Force of Will's medium. Force is really good on like Exploration Tireless Tracker, but not on Life from the Loam. Force is also good against the sideboard cards. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to cut like one Force, one Ice Fang, or two Ice Fangs. Alright, solid hand. We have Forced, pitched, Miss Hollow Griffin, and a sweet card for the... Oh, no land. Oh, no. Absolutely not. Yes, keep. I put back two of these. It's going to be the Ice Fang Coatl and the Abrupt Decay. We're very good against people who disconnect. That's our record. What is this, round 4? I think we're 2-1. We need to play one of our fetches this turn so that we don't get ported next turn. I mean, Crane, the cool thing is that if you own Allurin or Food Chain, you do have a decent amount of parts for the other, so pivoting between the decks isn't all that hard. I did that exact same thing. All right, Griffin, Scourge, draw a card. Back to basics. You don't say. I'll play a Life from the Loam for me. So I can tap out, empty graveyard, Life from the Loam. Let me get you. We'll wait. We'll wait. I'm not sure if you're supposed to tap down Forest or Island there. It's an interesting discussion, because, like, I can brainstorm in response to tapping Island, but Island shuts off Ponder and makes your spells for the following turn more likely to resolve. Do I have a second Forest? What's my basic distribution? Forest, Forest, Island, Island, Swamp. So the next question is back to basics or Unmoored Ego first. Unmoored Ego is harder on the mana. But back to basics is probably pretty crippling here. I wish one of these wasn't a verdant, so I could get the Island. Yeah, a lot of people have been having trouble. Fucking A, really? Reb? Well, either one of those loses to that. So I don't have blue for Miss Hologriffin, which is super unfortunate here. So I'm probably casting Green Sun for Bird. Green Sun for Coatl. Top deck Oko. So I'm actually thinking about Unmoored Ego plus Green Sun for Bird. But that might be greedy. No, I think I'm supposed to Surgical Stage or Depths after they hit the graveyard this turn. So that, like, if I find an Oko, I have real outs for later. Wait, hold up. Do I have any Food Chain based lines? Cast Green Sun for X equals 1. No, because I get 2 mana, and I need to get to 3 to Scourge. I can cast Food Chain this turn. Okay, hold up. No, that's probably it. I cast Food Chain and Green Sun for Bird this turn. And then next turn I can cast Scourge into Griffin, and get 2 turns of chump blocking, while also Surgicaling Dark Depths or Stage. That's my line. Okay. So this will mean that my opponent is going to have to find Sajiri's Step to beat me. Because I can Miss Hologriffin, block, exile, and I can just name Sajiri's Step with Unmoored Ego. That's really good. Okay, for Field of the Dead reasons, I'm going to surgically extract Thespian Stage over Dark Depths. I think the line that I took is the line that gives me the highest chance to actually win. Opponent, if you have crop rotation, you just missed the win. Like, holy shit, that was a bad play. Like, it's just crop rotation force Sajiri Step and kill me through birds. That's if my opponent has Sajiri Step in their deck, though. Which they do not. So I can Unmoored Ego, Field of the Dead, and be in really good shape moving forward. My opponent is going to have outs to the things I'm doing. Punishing Fire this turn kills Bird. Abrupt Decay doesn't kill Bird. Well, shit. That's pretty good. Okay. So I can't Griffin. So this is going to be for x equals 2 to get an Ice Fang Coatl to get another chump block. So what mana am I leaving up? Probably green-blue for the upside of second Ice Fang Coatl, if I can do that. But I can't do that. No, yes I can. So this leaves up green, blue, black, blue. Okay, yeah, this is the line. So this is going to end up being quite the game. Scrib Ranger can bounce things. I knew what you meant, but it's not what you said. Okay. I am going to cast this now, because it can allow me to hit a land drop if I whiff on a creature that matters. Choices. So my opponent plays 3 red elemental blasts. I guess that's the power of Oko right now. Oh, great, Field of the Dead. It's coming. I didn't get a chance to unmoored ego it, which fucking sucks. Come on, blue. Ha ha! Ha ha! Ha ha ha! Yes. Is there any world where I would want to play something other than Oko? If yes, I should play Ice Fang Coatl first. No, I haven't. No, I think Oko and Elk that is just like the line 100% of the time. And then I'll just hold this up to do it on my opponent's turn. Oh yeah, I only have 1 blue. That simplifies things a lot. You're an elk. Punishing Fire is a pretty sweet draw for my opponent now. They get to attack Oko and then kill it. Yes, Grok, as you can see here, Merit Laj is now a 3/3 legendary green elk. God, this Unmoored Ego has been, like, so close to exactly what I've needed all game, and I've just never had the ability to cast it at the right time. So, like, now they just get another Merit Laj. I'm not dead to that yet. Like, I get to Ice Fang block, and it still has the name Merit Laj, so when they make this one, it's going to kill that one. Alright, so I make an ooze. I eat life from the loam. I pass the turn. Oh god, they didn't do it. Why didn't they do it? Oh, I see. They're going for a Field of the Dead. That's fair. I don't know. Going for it seems pretty good. I don't have the ballista, so I can't actually go infinite. Alright, there's a blue source. So my opponent could have Barbarian Ringed this. They didn't. Which makes me kind of want to trade it off, but I don't think I'm going to trade it off. I think I'm going to let Oko take the hit. Like, are they going to realize that they could have... No, they can't Barbarian Ring this because they have 3 cards in graveyard. Maybe I am supposed to keep it then. I'm taking no block on Oko. Fucking port me, you coward. So my opponent could get to Threshold by staging Dark Depths, Ghost Quartering themselves, and then use that to kill Icefang Coatl. But I don't know that they're going to see that line, given how they've played the rest of this game. So it may be correct for me to try to dig towards Food Chain instead. Those are not good cards. Those are very not good cards. My opponent also hasn't Ghost Guarded me all game, so I'm going to get this island and maybe get punished for it. This game's really hard. I can Unmoored Ego, Punishing Fire to prevent an immediate Merit Lodge-based deck. But I don't really know how I beat the Field of the Dead long term. Back to Basics doesn't do it. I really need to combo off, but I've moved the Ballista to the sideboard. So I don't get to infinite combo off. Do I have the Uro in the deck? The Uro is also in the sideboard. Fuck. A high roll towards Food Chain again. I don't understand anything anymore. I don't think I need to eat anything here. Change my mind. Let's get this into play in case we ponder into Food Chain next turn. I'm really happy my opponent doesn't know how the cards work. What? Sending it all in, huh? Trying to kill Oko. Well, I guess that means I protect Oko. So, like, keep this alive, and trade with that. Maybe I'm just playing Griffin here, actually. I don't care if opponent wins on time. My opponent is playing very, very poorly. That is the reason why. Now I win in the air in a couple turns. I should technically do this loop one more time so I can lean the green up, but I'm going to be F6ing at this point. I don't think the combo is consistent when it's 2 cards. I don't think this is a combo deck. I think this is entirely a mid-range deck. Like, I think playing the Green Sun package basically means you can't consistently combo off. You have fewer cantrips to find your combo, and you don't have that many redundant copies of it. So if one gets exiled, say, due to something like Swords to Plowshares, you lose out on a lot. It's not how that card works. No, I guess it is. Yeah, but Emrakul's so bad. I already know that my opponent doesn't have Zajiri Step, so they're very dead. And they don't have Glacial Chasm. For opponent, there's still 3 bodies getting through, all of which are lethal. I'm very aware that there are better lines. Take that. All right, folks, I'm going to take 30 seconds to run to the restroom before the next round starts up. I will be right back. And then I'll kind of talk about that match a little bit more. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a debrief from that last round before I actually go into starting this round. So I think my opponent made a number of errors that absolutely cost them that game on a number of different levels. They didn't port me, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 different times over the course of that match. Towards the end of that game, their Ghost Quarter was a live card that does actually destroy one of my lands. I know they don't necessarily know how many lands I'm playing in this deck, but about 4 or 5 is pretty common for this deck. So once they saw the 5th basic, I think it's worth considering Ghost Quartering me to keep me off of double 3-dropping, or like make it harder for me to Griffin and do something else in a turn. I think that in response to my Pithing Needle on Thespian stage, their Thespian stage should have copied something. Whether that's just one of my lands that has a different name for Field of the Dead reasons, or whether like they try to get cute and try to copy their Ghost Quarter so that I will potentially have to name Ghost Quarter instead of Thespian stage, keeping the combo live for later in the game. I think there were so many decisions that game that my opponent could have made that would have kept me closer to death. And I won that game on slim margins in terms of time. And I definitely think if my opponent played tighter, I would have lost that one. I think I have a lot of trouble assembling a combo, right? Like, I have 2 cards that work towards it, and if that Ballista goes to the graveyard, it's real hard for me to get it out. I have 1 Uro to get it out. I don't think enough of the combo is present in this deck to actually intend on relying on the combo. I love doing the tutoring stuff. The point of the deck is green Sun for Uro is the combo. Sure, I guess that's fair. And like maybe I should have left the Uro in and just boarded Walking Ballista Trinket Mage out. Keep. So folks, as we go into the last rounds here, if you enjoy my content, please consider doing something to support it, whether that is subscribing, just following, you know, retweeting my stuff when I go live. Do something to keep the legacy action flowing. Yeah, we are 1 sub away from our stream next Saturday with Rich. All right, we're playing against elves. Caligaru, thank you very much for your support. I'm so looking forward to that. Rich is an awesome, awesome player. Okay. So I can food chain next turn? Alright, how do I go off as quickly as possible? I can play food chain this turn, food chain into Coatl. I can't use the food chain mana for Green Sun because food chain has a limitation that it can only be used for creature spells. I need to Green Sun for X equals 3 for Uro. But Uro itself isn't really going to let me go off, right? So like I food chain for Uro, I could exile Uro with it on the stack, but that's not what I want to do. I want to be recasting Uro. See, like recasting Uro isn't going to win me this game. It's just going to make a 6/6, which is not going to be good enough against what my opponent is doing, probably. I also have Leovold to think about, and stopping my opponent from glimpsing. Okay. I think I figured out my line. I think I'm going to go ahead and play the Ice Fang Coatl, draw a card, and then use Green Sun for Dryad Arbor, assuming I don't draw it right here. Hey, 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 that's pretty good. So now I'll just Green Sun for Dryad Arbor. Just make it more likely that I can assemble something that resembles a kill or a soft lock in the not too distant future. I have a lot of mana next turn. Because my Ice Fang Bird and Dryad Arbor are going to be expendable after this turn, probably. Alright, well, if I don't force this, I obviously don't have force, so it's F6 time. Opponent's going to get to do a lot of stuff here. Okay, how do I play this turn? So I have 3 mana for Food Chain and then 2 mana after that. I am not going to get to both Griffin and Food Chain this turn. Sorry, I'm not going to get to Griffin, Food Chain, and Green Sun. I'm not super happy with this. I think I need to use 4 mana to Green Sun for Leovold so that I don't just die to a Glimpse. But that means I lose access to the Uro. But I think that's what needs to happen. Otherwise, like, I play Food Chain, Exile, Ice Fang or something, play Mist Hollow, and I don't think that puts me that into a winning position. It means that next turn I can do some cute stuff with Uro, but I only have 2 cards in my graveyard anyway. So I think I'm going to play Fetch Land, cast Green Sun for X equals 3 using these lands, so that I can like save it as flexible for whether or not I actually fetch here. And hopefully we just like draw Trinket Mage and I don't need to think about it. Stevie, thank you very much for following. Reaple Cheap, the Uro-based finishes are feeling clunky to me. Like I can make the big boy relatively easily. And like it nets me 6 life, 2 cards, and a big body. But I don't know. And the fact that like the Green Suns don't play well with the Food Chain. What is this? Oh god, it's that fucking X-Wolf. Okay, so whenever a non-human creature enters the battlefield, you can pay X to put X counters on this thing. So that thing is probably going to get real large. Yeah, if I end up in a board stall. Oof. All right. All right. Ice Fang Coatl, you have a job now. You are totally jumping under the bus to kill that thing. All right. Better lucky than good. We take those. I am a skilled magician, in case you didn't already know that. Concession appreciated, so I don't have to click through this. It's a league, not for fun. You have to play. Opponent confirmed scum. I'm just screenshotting that one for later. Don't be this person. Agreed. Our opponent doesn't have scavenging ooze or anything like that, so I'm good after this next iteration. Oh wait, no, that's x equals 10. Yeah, I mean, this is a huge problem with Magic Online. But it's also a huge social problem, right? Like, my opponent is dead on board, and they're just opting to waste my time instead of their time. Or, sorry, they're opting to waste my time and their time. So my opponent can politely go fuck themselves, and I don't care. Like, you're the worst sort of person, in my opinion, if you do this. Especially while someone is streaming. And, like, this makes for poor content, and it's just, like, literally everyone loses. Okay, so what do we have versus elves? Plague Engineers seems sweet. Onward Ego is interesting, but probably not good enough. Pithing Needle's okay. Back to Basics is okay. I don't think I'm going to be sideboarding too heavily for this matchup. Tiger's Jaw X, thank you very much for following. I hope you're enjoying this despite the fact that our opponent is making us do boring things. What am I supposed to board out? I don't really know. Like, there's scenarios where we want Scavenging Ooze to help stabilize a board and gain some life. Like, our Force of Wills aren't great. Our Scavenging Ooze isn't great. I think I'm going to trim one Force and one Ooze and call that good. Like, I need various pieces of interaction. This is a really awkward hand. I like use this once upon a time to hit a land drop in all likelihood. I think I'm gonna keep this, but it's weird. Nah, fuck it. I'm gonna mulligan it. Nice. I'm just gonna have 6 through my opponent's turns if they're gonna like effectively try to just time me out this game if I have to combo off again. So am I playing Naked Food Chain into Reclaimer, or am I playing Manipulate Fate first? I think I'm playing Manipulate Fate first. I just don't want to like play that out for no value, if possible. Definitely drawing too many lands here. But like, thankfully we have effectively three more cards in hand via exile. If I draw an Ice Fang Coatl, I kind of get to combo off. Because I can, like... Or no, I can't. No, I would. 4 mana, up to 5 mana, down to 0 mana, then Scourge, Griffin. No, not really. I don't really get to play around Force of Vigor. I can cast the Food Chain, sacrifice something, and then they just eat it in response. I think that's a super poor attack, but I'm not going to punish because like I have such good lines that involve me still having the Dryad Arbor. I mean, I obviously did, so you're wrong. I think it's really hard to figure out what I'm supposed to be boarding out because, like, basically all of my cards have functionality in this matchup in one way or another. Like, the Okos gain life, buy a lot of time, produce bodies, stop something critical like Wirewood Symbiote in situations like these. Then I have the combo side of the equation as well. That's interesting. So that means I'm just on the beatdown game plan. That's good to know about for future games. That I probably need to win just by clocking my opponent in the air over 3 turns. I would very much like them to fetch. Or no, I guess that's not going to matter that much. Okay, that's going to kill me. Okay, now I know about a Collector Oof from the other side. Is that going to change anything about what I'm doing? I still have Abrupt Decay for that. When I'm on the play, I'm slightly more likely to tap out for cards, so I think I'm going to play this Force of Will. Yeah, I do think Uro is kind of bad. And I'm probably green sunning for Leovold over it just about every time. But I still don't know that I can cut it. Because I need a green sunnable thing to do in the late game, which I won't have otherwise because I've already cut the ooze. I think maybe I'm supposed to either trim a Green Sun or an Ice Fang. But I don't know with 100% certainty. I'd also back to basics on the play and try to mise a win. Let's do that. Elves has surprisingly few forests in it for what is roughly a mono green deck. I say roughly because like it's essentially a mono green deck, but yeah, combo. I'm keeping this hand because it has the Trinket Mage, and I can probably sculpt it into something that has a chance of winning. Since we have 3 Brainstorms, I'm going to fire one off and see if we hit both Griffin and Force of Will. We did not. We in fact hit a relatively bad set of cards, but that's okay. I'm now probably not playing this back to basics this game, since my opponent led on Forest and has a mana dork already. Yikes. Force? We get 2 looks. No force. Let's assume I don't want this back to basics anymore, and let's assume that Trinket Mage is the most important card in my hand. There's the Cradle, which punishes this decision. We're probably going to be close to dead after this turn is over, either effectively or actually. Hey chat, you want to see an awkward turn? I'm going to show you an awkward turn. You ready? Put this back. Goodbye, Bayou. Our time together was sweet. I don't think I can let them have that Cradle next turn. There's plenty of things that this walks into. But I can't let them have, oh, I don't know, 3 to 6. God damn it. That's pretty frustrating all in all. Okay. I think this is... So there's 6 damage on board. Natural Order could be incoming next turn. I can manipulate Fate and Ice Fang Coatl in the same turn. I can also high roll, look for a land, and then ponder. Yeah, okay, so let's look for a land or Force of Will. Okay, this is fine. Shuffle library, no. Play Trop. Play the Manipulate Fate. No, they've already glimpsed twice. I'm not going to go for Leovold. I'm going to set up to play Ice Fang Coatl, get a new card, and potentially have Food Chain combo to stop non-natural order lines. I don't think that's worth casting the Ice Fang Coatl in response for. Like, if I'm going to attempt to Force of Will something, I want it to be natural order. Yeah, so now we see if we hit Force of Will here. Fucking so good at Magic. So Ice Fang Coatl doesn't have Death Touch, so my opponent missed free damage. So now this turn, I'm going to go ahead and Leo. Leo also helps me stabilize the board while eliminating some of my opponent's outs. So I'm going to call that good. Because my opponent may realize that my Ice Fang Coatl doesn't actually have Death Touch at some point. Okay. You just have a hoof in hand after all of that. That will be disappointing if true. Alright, they have a green sun for it. I mean, I played towards it happening, right? Like, I talked about it happening before it actually did. So this is 19 coming in. I can block 4 of it, effectively putting me at 17. So I am just dead. So if I were a spiteful asshole like my opponent, I would take various priority passes and waste literally 15 minutes of my opponent's time. Like, spend 5 minutes here. Spend 5 minutes here, like, tap this, spend 5 minutes. But I'm not that sort of person. So on paper here, our record is 3-2 for the day. But in reality, our record is 1-1 because 2 of our opponents timed out in this league via disconnects. I do not think that this is a viable legacy deck. I really do not like this build. I understand the utility that Green Sun provides, but I felt like a bad bug mid-range deck for a lot of this league. Like, Green Sun for Leovold and Collector Oof was very good today, but I don't think Green Sun messes with the rest of this shell. And I feel like, as a whole, this is worse than traditional Food Chain. I think it's an interesting idea, but if you want to keep the Green Sun build, I think you need to be able to Green Sun for a true win condition. Like, I hate Emrakul in this deck, but the ability to, like, Green Sun for Fierce Empath and get Emrakul is the sort of thing that this build is missing. And, like, Uro doesn't do it as a win condition if you're going infinite. Like, you get some cards, some life, a large body out of it, but, like, Uro, you can't just, like, sacrifice the Uro to the Food Chain itself to, like, keep recasting it. And since the escape cost costs 5 other cards from your graveyard, it's not like you can just gain infinite life, draw infinite cards, and win that way. So, I don't know. I don't feel like this deck is quite there in its current iteration. Maybe there's something to it, but there's a lot of pieces that don't play with the primary portion of the combo, right? So, if we kind of do a quick count, we have 27 cards that we can't actually cast if we're trying to go infinite via Food Chain. And some of these things don't actually gain anything. So if we're going infinite mana, the cards that are actually profiting from that infinite mana are essentially these, right? The birds don't really gain you anything. The Scourge and Griffins give you extra body. This gives you a card draw. I don't really know that, like, this is enough payoff. We played a shorter league than normal because, like, we only played game ones of 2 of our matches. And so Uro didn't necessarily get to do its thing as many times as it might have, which could have changed my mind. But I assembled Food Chain Griffin a couple of times, and I just couldn't do anything with it afterwards. Currently, the deck is better off being in Bant over Bug. I could buy that, but Plague Engineer is a really powerful sideboard card, and Abrupt Decay is really good. You play Swords of Plowshares if you're in Bant. You expose yourself to Chalice a little bit more than you would otherwise, and you gain an answer to opposing Uros. I mean, I'd be more interested in just playing a blue-green build of this, honestly. Like, I don't know if you need a third color. Like, play more manipulation, maybe play a couple more mana accelerators, play more things that win you the game. Like, you can just play a couple more walking ballistas, like play 3-ish of those. These can be cantrips and accelerators. You can potentially go heavier on Uro, Oko sorts of things as the backup plan. I don't know. And if you take out a third color, maybe you can eliminate birds, play Noble Hierarch instead, have the aggro backup plan be slightly better. I don't know how this deck is supposed to play out, but I didn't feel particularly competitive today, despite the fact that we ended up in the positive. And I feel like with this deck, a lot of the games where you don't draw Manipulate Fate are going to be really hard, because, like, outside of Manipulate Fate fueling you into all of your goodies, you have to lean on, like, Oko and Uro to win games, or bullets like Leovold and Collector Oof. And you're going to get very few whoops I win games, since you're only playing 2 copies of your true win condition. The last time I faced this deck in my local meta, it had 1 to 2 sweepers. What are your thoughts on not including them in the current meta? Yeah, so Regal Chief, keep in mind, my sample size is 1 league, where we only played 1 game in 2 of our rounds, so my sample size is small, but Uro did not feel good today in this deck. And, like, the Green Sun was clunky with the Food Chain, because I couldn't, like, Food Chain, start comboing off, and then cast the Green Sun for Uro. So, I'm super skeptical. I mean all of this as constructive criticism, and I hope it's coming across as such. But it feels clunky. Okay, sorry. So back to the sweeper question. I think when this deck was playing a whole bunch of sweepers, there were more things like smaller Delver decks and Death and Taxes running around. And now a whole bunch of the Delver decks have things like Hooting Mandrills, like Oko, that make some of the things like Dead of Winter slightly worse, or cause you to pay a whole bunch of life if you want to try and sweep them. So that's kind of my thought without playing this deck a whole ton, is that some of the matchups that the sweepers are really good against have decreased a little bit, and some of the threats are more resilient to sweepers. Yes, Food Chain mana lets you cast Uro from the yard, but since you have to have 5 cards in exile, it's not like you can randomly just like keep recasting the Uro to gain infinite life, draw infinite cards, that sort of thing. So, like, you Food Chain, you create, 4 mana so that you can recast the Uro from the yard, and that's cool. It's a big threat, but I like my opponent being dead when I start comboing off. Like, a lot of times the Food Chain decks do just end up playing these mid-rangey games, but without Ponders in here to help fuel the yard, I feel like it's going to be real hard to cast the Uro a second time if it gets, like, Pyroblasted, Dazed, whatever. So, I don't know about this. I feel like there's definite room for something to improve it, but I think including Oko, Uro, Green Sun, and a couple Green Sun bullets is a lot going on, and trying to shove those together into this combo core is making life hard. One other thing for anyone else who intends on picking up this deck list, the Spell Pierce and 1 Surgical in the sideboard should be Force of Negations, but a lot of the cards in this deck are very expensive right now on Magic Online, and it pushed my $500 loan account to the limit, just getting the core that's here. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this today. I will be back on Monday with some White Eldrazi, and then again on Thursday with some... sorry, what's in the queue after that? I forgot already. Is it Loam? I feel like it's Loam. Yeah, then I'll be back on Thursday with Loam, and Saturday we'll be streaming some Delver with Rich, which I'm really looking forward to. He won the most recent Legacy Super Preliminary, or whatever they're exactly called. So really looking forward to having a high-level stream with him. All right, everyone, I hope you have a great rest of the day. And let's see, who can I raid? Mo Panda is playing some Bug Depths. All right, I'm in for that. What is unplayable Chunder Bucket Pile? You'll find out, but it's bad. It's like a Chancellor deck, hence the name Unplayable. Cheers, folks. Have a great rest of the day.